Tonight on Reporting Scotland, as tensions in the Middle East rise, we hear from those at home and abroad watching on. With politicians here urging restraint, there are reports emerging that Iran has targeted American air bases in Qatar and Iraq. Also on tonight's programme, 24-year-old Scottish wingsuit flyer Liam Byrne dies during a jump in Switzerland. Tributes to former Lisbon Lion and Celtic legend John Clarke, who's died at the age of 84.
How would you feel trying to survive in the world without being able to communicate? And he's due that. He's got a human right to be able to give him the tools he needs to be able to survive in this world.
We hear from a father who fears his son may never speak because of a lack of speech therapists.
Coming up in the sport, Rangers shareholders give their approval for the club's new American owners to invest £20 million into the club.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Monday's programme. Tensions in the Middle East are continuing to rise, with Israel carrying out further attacks on Iran after the US hit the country at the weekend. In the last hour, Iran has responded, targeting American air bases in Qatar and Iraq. There are moves to get British nationals out of the region, and the first repatriation flight from Israel has taken place. As the world holds its breath, our reporter Katrina Renton has been getting the thoughts of a Scot still in Israel and an Iranian living here.
It is 10 days since Israel began the attacks on Iran, and Iran retaliated. Over the weekend, the situation escalated with the intervention of the United States against Iran. In Tehran, the bombing continues. Scots-Iranian documentary maker Parisa Urquhart lived in the country until she was 4 and moved to Scotland. She's concerned for family friends.
I was trying to get in touch with my family friends, asking, are they okay? Have they fled Tehran? And I didn't hear from them. My anxiety levels were really high. And of course, there was this social media blackout. But luckily, for example, I did hear from my family friends at the beginning of the weekend, which was a real relief, and they're safe. But I heard from them again today, and they're just saying there's loads of bombings in Tehran, and they're safe for now.
Footage circulating on social media shows Iran's retaliation on Israel continues. Families are in lockdown, reacting to sirens, and going to safe rooms is becoming the norm. Talia Silver is originally from Glasgow. She and her husband live in a place between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv with their 7 children. She's staying positive, particularly for the children, and does not want to come back to the UK.
We've been having quite a lot of sirens. We're lucky enough that we live in a house that has a safe room in the house.
And tell me, do you still have family back in Glasgow?
Still got family in the UK, but not in Scotland.
How do they feel knowing that you're out there?
I think it's harder for them because they're not here, like when you hear it on the news. For example, my mother-in-law's in Manchester. She basically put on a similar app on the phone that we have, like the app that tells us when there's an alert. So she knows when we get an alert and when we have to go to the safe room, and that's worse for her.
This is a political conflict, but for the people living through it in both countries, it is an anxious and frightening time. Katrina Renton, reporting Scotland.
Well, our political editor, Glenn Campbell, joins us now. And Glenn, what's the latest tonight on those attacks on American air bases?
Well, ever since the US attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities, I think the key question has not been so much if, but when and how Iran might respond. And as you've been reporting, Iran's state media has confirmed that it has launched missile attacks on US-run bases in both Qatar and in Iraq. And the Qatari authorities have confirmed an attack on the Al-Adid air base and have condemned it. And they say they reserve the right to respond in a manner equivalent with the nature and scale of what they call brazen aggression. So there is the potential here for escalation, and of course the United States is watching these developments closely, and we're told top military officials are now gathered in the White House Situation Room.
And what's the political reaction here been so far?
Well, here at Holyrood, the First Minister, John Swinney, has taken the view that this is a profoundly dangerous moment and has called for de-escalation. And in fact, that's a very similar position to that taken by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Although the SNP's leader at Westminster, Stephen Flynn, took a more critical line of the UK government's approach in the Commons this afternoon.
The Foreign Secretary can't tell us whether he believes that these strikes were legal or not, and the Foreign Secretary has failed today to outline whether this House would be given a vote on any potential military action.
He may just have got a soundbite, but I'm really on the nuclear question. I'm not going to take lecturing from the honourable gentleman. I'm afraid he's got a very sorry record in relation to that very serious matter.
And that appears to be a reference to the SNP's long-standing opposition to the UK's nuclear weapons programme at a time when the UK has reconfirmed its support for and its plans to maintain the 4 nuclear-armed submarines based on the River Clyde. Of course, there's the domestic politics, but also the concern for the safety of individuals and UK interests in the Middle East. The UK Foreign Secretary saying that his focus is on diplomatic efforts and notably refusing to say whether or not he supports the military action, the specific military action that the United States has taken.
OK, Glenn, thank you. And in today's Scottcast, Martin Geisler has been talking at length about the tensions in the Middle East with the former First Minister Humza Yousaf. You can get that on BBC Sounds, on the BBC Scotland channel later and on iPlayer. A Scottish wingsuit flyer has died during a jump in the Swiss Alps. 24-year-old Liam Byrne from Stonehaven was critically injured on the Glitchin Mountain on Saturday. He was a British champion and recently featured in a BBC documentary, The Boy Who Can Fly. Liam's parents said their son chased life in a way that most of us only dream of, and he soared. Louise Hosey reports.
I think I was about 13 when I first said to my dad that I wanted to learn how to fly like a bird.
24-year-old Liam Byrne was a performance wingsuit flying champion. He recently featured in the BBC documentary The Boy Who Can Fly. His love of flight started as a schoolboy in his hometown of Stonehaven.
I've been sitting out the school window just staring at seagulls flying and always feeling that sense of envy that they have that freedom to just take off and fly away.
On Saturday, Liam died while taking part in a jump on Mount Gitschin in Switzerland. An investigation into the incident is being carried out by the Swiss authorities. As well as speaking of the joy of wingsuit flying, Liam was well aware of its dangers, urging amateurs not to try it at home.
For me, I'm about as far from a reckless adrenaline junkie as you can possibly get. Preparation has always been at the heart of all my challenges. The more I prepare, the more control I have.
Liam said his dad Mike, a former commando, had a huge impact on him. The feeling was mutual.
Anything I suggested he'd be up for. Massively inspired by him. I wish I could be more like him.
In a statement to BBC Scotland News, Mike and Liam's mum Gillian said their son was fearless, with a bold spirit and kind heart, and that he had chased life in a way that most of us could only dream of. Though he has now flown beyond our reach, they said, he will always be with us. Louise Hosey, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
From player to coach, assistant manager to kitman, John Clarke served Celtic Football Club for 8 decades before his death at the age of 84. Today, respects have been paid to the defender, who was part of the legendary Lisbon Lions team who lifted the European Cup in 1967. Celtic say he was one of their greatest, but he never saw himself as that, his own humility never allowing him to do so. Andy Burke reports.
Few figures are as revered by the Celtic fans as John Clarke. He and his teammates achieved sporting immortality on that famous day in May of 1967, when the Lisbon Lions reached heights never scaled by a Scottish side before or since to become champions of Europe.
I think his performance in Lisbon, which I was privileged to watch, could be summed up probably in 2 words: in the way he subtly played, intervened in very important occasions. And that was unobtrusive magnificence.
Clarke joined Celtic as a 17-year-old in 1958 and soon established himself in the first team. His defensive partnership with the great Billy McNeill, the foundation of a side that would go on to achieve greatness. A quiet, unassuming personality, Clarke was still able to make his presence felt in a dressing room full of big characters.
John was one of the quiet ones, and but that didn't mean he couldn't say his point when it was needed, and he made sure that if he wanted to make his point, he got it across. And that's a decided asset to have in any player, that they can stand up for themselves.
After over 300 games and a raft of winners' medals, Clarke left Celtic and spent the final years of his playing career at Greenock Morton. But he was drawn back to Parkhead as McNeill's assistant manager before a 20-year spell as the team's kit manager. His commitment to Celtic was absolute, and his role in the club's finest hour in Lisbon cemented his legend and his place in the hearts of the supporters.
How much it meant to people, and it's the warmth of these people. Not only Celtic support, we got a lot of, every support. They come up and shake your hands and delighted at what happened because it's the 50th year, and you feel very proud, honestly.
John Clarke, the Lisbon Lion, who's died at the age of 84. Now, demand for speech and language therapy is increasing, but the number of therapists in Scotland is falling behind the rest of the UK. That's according to a new report seen by BBC Scotland News. The study by the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists says some children are waiting up to 3 years for an appointment. Our education correspondent Lucy Adams has the story.
Callum is 5 years old. He's autistic and non-verbal. At nursery, he received one-to-one support from a specialist team. But since he started primary school last year, he's had none. His dad, Grant, is concerned he may never speak as a result.
First of all, it's upsetting. It is, it's really upsetting because, until you're actually, you live in his world, to know, to try and put yourself in his shoes and say, how would you feel trying to survive in the world without being able to communicate? And he's due that. He's got a human right to be able to give him the tools he needs to be able to survive in this world. And local council or local government, it's disgusting that they just don't think that that's a priority for somebody and that they're not funding it adequately.
This new report says Scotland is falling behind the rest of the UK in its ratio of therapists to children, and that in some areas families are waiting up to 3 years for a first appointment. It says that we need to increase our number of full-time therapists from 530 to 900.
There are kids experiencing significant challenges in school, and that causes behavioural issues, which in turn causes stress for teachers. So we feel that by positioning speech and language therapists within education, we can solve quite a lot of the problems that Scotland is facing right now.
North Lanarkshire Council, where Callum goes to school, said there are UK-wide challenges in the recruitment of speech and language staff, and we continue to work closely with colleagues at NHS Lanarkshire to assist in mitigating these. The council has pledged to offer more support in August. NHS Lanarkshire provides the speech and language therapists in the area. It apologised for any distress caused. The Scottish Government said it would publish an action plan on speech and language by this autumn. Callum's family says he needs a specialist to help him communicate so he's less distressed.
He needs it now. He needs this now. He needed what he was getting at nursery to be continuous to going through school. And as I say, it's just not acceptable.
And that was Sandra speaking to our correspondent Lucy Adams. Now, ketamine may be increasingly known as a party drug that can lead to serious health issues, even fatalities when misused. But now there's growing interest in its potential as a treatment for mental health problems. NHS Lothian is considering the use of the Category B drug for those with the most severe depression. Hayley Jarvis reports.
I would be, crying all day while I was working and very resistant to doing anything new.
Alex has experienced periods of depression and anxiety. When traditional treatments didn't help, she turned to ketamine therapy.
I definitely had like a psychedelic experience. So like you would see images, kind of feel like you're floating sometimes.
How does that help with the therapy and the treatment for depression?
I think it makes it more palatable almost. So like you may see an image and you'll remember this image and then you'll talk to your therapist.
So this is the treatment room. And this is where the infusions take place.
Alex is one of 12 patients to be treated at this private clinic in Hamilton, Scotland's first ketamine clinic, which opened last September under licence from Healthcare Improvement Scotland.
Can anyone just come in here and say, I'd like ketamine therapy?
No, they need to have a diagnosed condition that we can treat, and they need to be assessed, and they need to be safe to do this.
Patients sign up to a programme of 4 intravenous ketamine infusions and a course of psychotherapy at a cost of £6,000.
Most people don't have that kind of money, and that's why we would like to enter a partnership with the NHS.
Ketamine is an anaesthetic, but has hit the headlines for its recreational use. It can cause serious and sometimes permanent damage to the bladder, alongside a range of other complications if misused. Intravenous ketamine is not licensed for the routine treatment of depression in Scotland. Professor Andrew McIntosh hopes to set up a ketamine clinic at the Royal Edinburgh Hospital. It would be for patients with severe depression.
Even after taking multiple antidepressants and multiple different treatments, there's a small number of people who don't respond very well to any of those treatments. And so ketamine gives them additional hope. It's been shown to be effective in people who have very difficult to treat depression. And it's an extra thing that we could be doing, I think, to help our patients that's not currently available widely in Scotland.
NHS Lothian say they are considering the use of intravenous ketamine as an alternative to ECT, but no decision has been made. The Royal College of Psychiatrists has previously urged caution over the use of ketamine therapy, but says it's due to publish a new report on psychedelics soon. Hayley Jarvis, reporting Scotland.
Now, it's an issue familiar to those living in areas which attract lots of tourists, the rise of Airbnb-style lets. For some, they bring business. For others, they push out local residents. Well, a proposed control zone across the Highlands is due to be discussed at a council meeting later this week. Ailey Davis has more.
Tourism is vital to the Highland economy, but with the region experiencing a severe housing crisis, some say the number of short-term lets, such as Airbnbs, is too high a price to pay and needs to be curbed.
It's not to stop people from getting a living from it, it's to control where it goes. And I think all fair-minded people would recognise that it is imbalanced and we need to address that imbalance.
There's already a control zone here in Badenoch and Strathspey. It's been in operation for 18 months. Now, it doesn't mean that holiday lets are banned, but operators need to apply for planning permission and a short-term let licence. Some councillors now want to extend the area to include the entire Highlands. A property owner in Skye who hopes to run an Airbnb says he's faced delays in getting a licence and is opposed to rolling out the control zone.
The reality is that they're going to be targeting small scale holiday lets, B&Bs, Airbnbs, people like myself who are either subsidising their income by doing bed and breakfast, which has always been traditionally a thing in Highland, and that seems a real injustice.
In Aviemore today, there were mixed views on the plans.
I'm actually a holiday maker in Aviemore, and I'm not staying in an Airbnb, and I'm staying in a hotel. Yeah, and I agree with like Scotland and the local people. Yeah, getting rid of the Airbnbs and making it more for the locals.
Tourists bring an awful lot of money into these areas, and to have something that's going to affect that and restrict that business is detrimental to pretty much everybody.
I wouldn't be in agreement with extending it because I value the money that comes in through tourism and holiday lets.
Councillors will discuss the issue later this week and attempt to find a balance between the importance of tourism and the need for local housing. Ailey Davis reporting Scotland, Aviemore.
OK, now Lewis is here with the sport. Hello.
Hi Laura, good evening. Well, Rangers are impatient, competitive and relishing the challenge of becoming the dominant force in Scottish football, according to their new chairman Andrew Kavanagh, after approval was given for £20 million of investment into the club at an extraordinary general meeting in Glasgow today. Jane Lewis has more.
These are the men at the forefront of Rangers' American takeover. Today they outlined their proposals for the club in person. And it's now full steam ahead for such plans, as shareholders approved a fresh investment of £20 million at their EGM. Briefing the Scottish media, which the BBC wasn't permitted to film, new chairman Andrew Kavanagh spoke on a variety of matters. On why invest in Rangers, he said he was attracted by the supporters, Ibrox and the competitions they play in. On ambitions, he says he's relishing and looking forward to the challenge their old firm rival Celtic will present. And on the man appointed to lead the team, he said Russell Martin was a standout candidate on 4 fronts. So the new chairman of Rangers has had his say today with some bold predictions and future plans for the club going forward. It is, of course, early days, but already it seems that most Rangers fans are on board.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, we spoke really well. Looking forward to obviously getting things going.
We need to definitely move forward, and we're hoping that this new investment is definitely going to be the thing that's going to drive us to future success.
They've got proof that they know how to run a business. Let's hope they know how to run the Rangers, and let's hope they bring success.
Hopefully the money they invest be invested in the team first. Get back to number 1.
So some confidence that the US-based consortium can deliver, from fans and from those part of a previous regime.
The world turns and we need to adapt new ideas and new thoughts. I think, as I say, we've over the last 6 months have become increasingly positive about the opportunity. It's now a question of delivering.
And early signs of that will come soon enough when Rangers take to the pitch for the new season. Jane Lewis, reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Rugby now, and George Turner says he's got his sights set on 50 caps as he prepares for Scotland's first match of their Summer Pacific tour against the Maori All Blacks in New Zealand next weekend. The Scotland hooker was recalled by head coach Gregor Townsend after a year out whilst playing in Japan, and says the move was really good for him, but he's excited to be back in the Scotland setup.
Really cool year for us, and for rugby as well, to experience that kind of bit more fast-paced, loose, crazy rugby. You know, I've wanted to hit 50 caps for a while, and I'm nearly there. So I think that's a good driving force. But it's been 20 odd years since we toured New Zealand, and I've not been there I've been there once before, and it's obviously an amazing country. Getting out to Fiji again will be cool as well. So it's going to be a really great experience to play those games.
Boxing, and Matty McHale has his sights set on the British and IBO titles after being crowned the Commonwealth Super Flyweight champion in East Kilbride on Friday night. The Edinburgh boxer defeated his opponent Sean Bruce in the 5th round to seal victory, bouncing back from the disappointment of defeat to Brandon Deord for the British title back in February. Now though, McHale and coach Terry McCormack of the same Loch End boxing club that moulded Josh Taylor are looking to the future.
We felt we won the British title, so it should be a Commonwealth and British title. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe go back there, get the British. We've got a couple of other things in the pipeline. There's the IBO World Champion, South African kid. We could maybe push for that.
I would like a bit of him, IBO World title. Give me him. Why not? I'll be in the gym, don't worry. That's my time off, in the gym. Just staying in that gym, staying active, There's no time off in this professional game.
Great to see him bounce back. And that's the sport, Laura.
Good stuff. Thank you, Liz.
Cheers.
Now, the news at 7 is coming up shortly on the BBC Scotland channel, and they're catching up with Kathleen Anderson, who's celebrating 40 years of running the post office from her front porch.
Well, I'm over 70. And no, I've not thought anything about retiring as yet. I thought when I was 70 I would be a good time to retire. It didn't happen. And I thought, 40 years at the post office, that'd be a good time to retire. And here I am, and it's not happened yet, so I'm not sure when it might happen.
Local hero Kathleen there. OK, Christopher is here. Oh dear, those clouds don't look too good, do
Rather
they?
ominous looking picture, isn't it? Brilliant picture though there from the Isle of Arran. Quite a mixed picture for the week ahead. That heat of last week long gone.
Oh, OK.
Thanks very much indeed, Laura. Good evening to you. Yes, we've had quite a mixed picture of weather today. A bit of sunshine around, but a lot of cloud. Fairly frequent showers, longer spells of rain, blustery and feeling cool. And actually the week ahead, well, if you take a look at the jet stream, you can see it's running west to east, helping to deliver areas of low pressure to our shores, weather fronts and rain, and certainly feeling cooler compared with the end of last week, as I mentioned. Tonight, the rain we had earlier in Shetland, that clears. Elsewhere, fairly cloudy with showers or longer spells of rain coming and going. The winds tending to moderate and ease down a touch. Temperatures overnight 10 to 13 Celsius. So that takes us to tomorrow, and it's a day of weather very similar to today. A lot of cloud around, some showers or longer spells of rain, sunshine in short supply. There'll be a bit of brightness coming through, probably to the lee of high ground across the eastern parts of the country. So by mid-afternoon, well, it's a drier picture compared with the morning, and actually warmer than today through the central lowlands in the south, 17 or 18 degrees, helped also by the winds, which will be lighter. You can see, though, across the Highlands and Islands, just 14 or 15 Celsius, fairly cloudy, showers not too far away, but it will be a drier picture for Orkney and Shetland compared with today. Tomorrow evening, those showers still with us, but the cloud then beginning to thin and break, because on Wednesday, we've got a ridge of high pressure. There it is on the chart, and that means it's a drier, brighter and warmer day for the midweek period. Let me show you what I mean. Here is Wednesday then, largely dry, mostly light winds, but they're coming in from the south. That'll help to lift the temperature. By afternoon, we're looking around about the high teens or maybe 20 Celsius, still 1 or 2 showers here and there, and then turning pretty wet, actually, overnight to Thursday. So for the end of the week, Thursday and Friday, it's back to unsettled with low pressure, weather fronts and rain, turning quite wet and windy on Friday, actually. But here is the outlook for Thursday and Friday. Temperatures not too bad, but showers or longer spells of rain, and certainly on Friday, wet and windy. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you, Christopher. Now, tonight's main news again. Iran has attacked a key US airbase in Qatar in what it's called a powerful response to the US strike on its nuclear facilities yesterday. And you can keep up to date with all the latest developments on that breaking story on the BBC News website. I'll be here with your late news at 10:30 tonight. Until then, from everyone on the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.